Okay, so this video is for lumbar neurogenic. So if we're thinking neurogenic, we're thinking myotomes, dermatomes, reflexes and neurodynamics. With the reflexes, don't forget the special test red flag checks as well. So we've got Babinski and Clonus as part of our reflexes in there. So we'll start off with myotomes and we'll move on to dermatomes after that. So okay to have a line on your back there, just so you can see. Okay, so with our myotomes for our lumbar spine, I'm going to go first of all for L2, which is hip flexion, so just try and resist me as I try and pull you down. Okay, and then push up towards the ceiling. Excellent, and go back down again. Try and point your toes against my forearm. Excellent. Don't let me pull your big toe down, so just try and pull up against me. And push your leg out to the side into abduction. Back up into flexion again there. Try and push your heel down in towards the bed. Excellent, and back down again. And then finally pull up against my hand from there as well. Okay, so we can work through each of our myotomes there. Same on the other side, so we're comparing. So don't let me pull you down. Try and push up to the ceiling. Down again. Push against my forearm. Don't let me pull your big toe up. Try and push out to the side. Excellent. Then back up again. Try and pull your heel down into the bed. Good. And then pull up against my hand over the ankle. Good. Okay, so the options there is that we do one at a time and compare one side to the other. Or we go all the way through the chain before we compare to the other side. It's down to kind of preference on that. I would probably in clinic do one myotome at a time, left then right, as you work your way down. What we're asking the patient to do is let us know if there's any perceived weakness, if they don't feel that they can push as hard on one side as the other. But as the therapist, we're also detecting if we can feel any weakness. So does it feel like they can not push as hard on one side, and we can use the Oxford scale to grade that as well. So once we've done our myotomes, we can move on to our dermatomes. So you'd like to have a seat on the edge of the bed there. Okay, so lumbar dermatomes, the main ones again that you want to be working on would be light touch. So these are your kind of go-to dermatome checks. With these dermatome checks, you're going to be going through the phases of explaining the procedure to the patient first, demonstrating with their eyes open. Really importantly, you then get them to close their eyes, and then you work through each dermatome starting distally and working proximally. So that's distally in terms of the nerve root where the nerve comes from, proximally in terms of the top one where the nerve root comes from as well. What you're doing is using light touch with the cotton buds, and we're dabbing the skin as opposed to stroking the skin, and we're asking the patient to let us know if there's a difference between one or the other. If we do detect a difference, we can quantify that by getting the patient to tell us what percentage difference it feels like between one side and the other. Okay, so I'm going to use the cotton wool just to kind of dab different areas of the skin, just let me know if there's a difference between what you can feel on one side and the other. So it'll feel kind of like that as I go through, and like that on the other side. Okay, so you're just to close your eyes then, just for a second. So I can start off with the distal one. So I can start off with S2, which is the posterior thigh, so the back of the leg. And feel the same on that side as it does on that side. And then the posterior knee as well as S2, feel the same as it does on that side. Yep. Around the ankle, feel the same on that one. Yep. Okay, moving on to S1, so I'm going to the heel, and that the same. Yep. The sole of the foot, both sides there. Yep. The little toe. L5, so I can use the lateral upper thigh, the dorsal of the foot, and the big toe, same both sides. With L4, I can go for medial lower leg, so on the inside of the lower leg, comparing one side to the other. L3, I can go for the anterior thigh and the medial knee. L2, a little bit higher up on the anterior thigh, same both sides there. Finally, L1, I can go across the pelvis. Okay, so once you've worked your way through each of those dermatomes and you've checked that they're all equal, left equals right, you could then discuss how you could also use vibration and sharp blunt testing at this point. So it might not be that you get time to show that, but you can have a knowledge of how to do that. And also at the end of your assessment, you might have a few minutes where we can kind of fill that time by getting you to demonstrate other tests. The main thing really is that you know that you do your dermatome checks using vibration, using a vibration tool, so a tuning fork. And you'd use the end of the tuning fork on a bony landmark somewhere within that dermatome level. Watch the cervical video just for a further explanation on how to do the vibration and the sharp lung tests. Our next phase here then would be to do our reflexes. So we've got the two different reflexes we can do. Using the reflex hammer, just a kind of boring point, just make sure it's stored on its side, not kind of face upwards during your assessment. So the two different reflexes that we've got patellar tendon. So what we want to make sure is that the patient is nice and relaxed. We know where the patellar tendon is, so it's just inferior to the patella and proximal to the tibial tuberosity. And then just with a nice kind of sharp strike on the patellar tendon like that, we're looking for the reflex to occur. Always compare these left to right, because just because someone hasn't got a reflex doesn't mean it's an abnormal test if they haven't got the reflex both sides. So we're comparing one side to the other. Next one is the Achilles tendon. So this one we want to put on a slight stretch into dorsiflexion. And again, we're just striking the Achilles tendon with the reflex hammer and comparing to the other side. Okay, probably looking for 3 or 4 attempts at finding the reflex. So don't just keep whacking it until you find it. 3 or 4 kind of confident, brisk kind of taps on the reflex is enough before you then compare to the other side. With the Achilles one, it's S1 and 2 is the level we're working at, whereas with the patella one, it's L3 and 4. With S1 and 2, we can also do that in prone with the ankles over the edge of the bed to provide the patellar tendon tap there. So I'll just show you that one quickly. So on your front with your feet over the side, missing. So face down, head at that end, that's it, and then legs just over the side, and then shuffle down a bit. Okay, so we can put the stretch on this time into dorsiflexion using your own knee, and then the Achilles tendon is a bit easier to access in this position to see if we elicit the reflex as well. Okay, let's get to have a line your back to face the procedure then. So the other two reflexes not to forget are Babinski and Clonus. So with Babinski, we're using the sharp end of the reflex hammer to stroke from the lateral side of the heel to the big toe side in an arc shape. What we're looking for as a normal sign is that nothing happens, or the toes curl in and the foot inverts. A negative sign or positive test would be that if the big toe extends and the foot dorsiflex and everts. Okay, so what we want to see is nothing or the toes curling. What we don't want to see, as in it's a bad sign, would be the big toe extending and the foot everting. These are tests for upper motor neuron disease, so problems with the brain and spinal cord. We'd do the same on the other side to compare, and then we'd also do our Clonus test. So Clonus test was cupping underneath the calcaneus, gently taking the ankle into dorsiflexion, and then all of a sudden rapidly taking it into dorsiflex position. And what we're looking for again is nothing to happen. If the foot starts jerking uncontrollably up and down, that would be a positive test, or a positive sign for upper motor neuron problems. Okay, so red flag sign would be a positive test of either of those two there. Then finally we've got our neurodynamics section. So neurodynamics, we've got a couple of femoral options and a couple of sciatic options. I'd probably pick at least one from both areas, or the ones that you're more confident with your handling. So this goes back to kind of Ian stuff with the slides and gliders. So we do our straight leg raise. We've got our tensioners with the ankle dorsiflexion, and then also from the proximal end cervical flexion. So just get to lift your head up a pillow. Good. Okay, so we're seeing if that reproduces symptoms. And back down again, and then we repeat on the other side again. And then lift your head. Good. So technically, if I take the dorsiflexion off the ankle, I'll unleash the tension on the nerves. That should take some of the strain away. So we can kind of clinically reason why the different sensitizers make a difference with these tests. Okay, let's get to have a line with the side just facing the other way. The femoral option, we've got the femoral slump test. So just go into that femoral slump position there. That's it, and then use your hands to put in. Good. Okay, and then hand on your head and pull down. Okay, so with this one, we're taking the top leg. So I'm just going to release the top leg. And we're going into hip extension. The way we can distinguish between it being just a stretch on the hip flexor or it being femoral nerve is by putting the sensitizer on the neck. So just going to extension there and then back into flexion. Okay, so we're looking at our kind of proximal and distal sensitizers there as well. The other option for femoral nerve is the prone knee bend. So we'll show you that one quickly as well. Just get to have a line in front. So prone knee bend would be heel towards bum, and then the sensitizer this time would be cervical extensions. Just get to lift your head into the air there. Okay, and again that would be our distinguishing factor between is it just quads tightness or is it something more neural related. The last one then is the sciatic nerve slump test. Just need to have a seat on the edge of the bed. And again, you're probably all familiar with this one from Ian's module. But if you go into a slouch position there, hands behind your back on the bed, we can overpress into flexion of the cervical spine and then just gradually get you to extend one leg forwards and then dorsal flex your ankle. Feel that stretch there? Okay, we'll compare to the other side, so back down and up the other side. Good. Okay, so comparing one side to the other. The last stage that you'll see that's noticed in the neurogenic would be the nerve palpation, and that's a section that we've removed from the assessments. However, there have been some slides on it, so if you've gone through that on your own time and you're confident with how to do nerve palpation, throw it in there just to kind of show that extra knowledge, but it's not part of the requirements of the assessment.